hot on the trail. Noses to the ground, they find everyone from escaped convicts to lost children. Find out how these infamous detectives pick up the scent and track their quarry down. Explorer is brought to you by State Farm Insurance. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
This is Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio, Texas. Home to 10,000 airmen, officers, and civilians, and also 400 of the sharpest dogs you'll ever want to see. Welcome to the headquarters of the 341st, the Working Dog Squadron. It's been called a Harvard for Hounds. Hi, I'm Robert Urich. We've come to Lackland Air Force Base for a special show on a very special partnership, dogs and humans. Now, this is where they train all the dogs for every branch of the U.S. military worldwide. In 16 weeks here, the dogs learn how to guard and patrol, how to sniff out explosives and intruders. Now, Duck here is a Belgian Malinois. He's a graduate of Lackland, and throughout this program, we're going to be seeing Duck and some of the other dogs here in action. Right? The U.S. military first started training dogs back in 1942, just after America entered World War II. They came from all over the country. Spots and Rovers volunteered by patriotic families to serve in the Army, the Marines, and Coast Guard. This was the first Canine Corps. Like human recruits, they were examined for physical and mental toughness, then put through training, everything from attack classes to messenger duty. The elite were sent into action by parachute. In every American conflict since World War II, dogs have played a role. 125 were recently sent into the Middle East for Operation Desert Storm, patrolling the sands and sniffing out booby traps in Kuwait City. You know, in one way or another, dogs have been our partners for more than 10,000 years, working side by side with us ever since the Stone Age. They herd sheep, they rescue the victims of avalanches, and today, some dogs even work to entertain us.
Next, Bloodhounds are a breed apart. When other dogs want to roll over and play dead, they keep on hunting. Explorer will be right back.
There, up. Good. Keep up with them. Speed up. Good.
We're back at Lackland Air Force Base, and this place may not look like much, but actually, it's a special training facility for the military dogs. This is where they're taught how to track down a missing person or a suspected felon. For this exercise, I get to play the part of the bad guy. We're going to see if Duck can find him. Let's see how he does.
You, in the building! This is Sergeant Duham with the Base Security Police. I'm accompanied by a military working dog, trained to attack on or off leash, with or without command. Exit this building immediately, or I'm coming in with my dog. Find him. Find him. Good boy. Yes. Good boy. Is that him, buddy? Woo! Is that him? Good boy. Open up that door!
Okay, you found me. You know, this is one of the toughest tests that dogs have to pass if they're going to graduate from Lackland. And Duck here, well, Duck did real well, didn't you? You know, these Belgian Malinois have some of the best noses in the business. But there's only one dog you can call the king of the sniffers, and that's the Bloodhound. They're not sleek like Duck here. They've got big floppy ears and they slobber like crazy, but as we're about to learn from natural history writer Richard Conniff, the nose of the Bloodhound, well, it's a thing of beauty. And yours is not so bad either.
And hark, the deep-mouthed bark comes nigher still and nigher. Bursts on the path a dark bloodhound. His tawny muzzle tracked the ground, and his red eye shot fire. That's the savage old image of the bloodhound, an animal with the ghoulish ability to trail an individual human being by scent alone.
Hello, my name is Richard Conniff. I write about the natural world, and particularly about offbeat, fascinating, and sometimes faintly loathsome animals like fire ants and slime eels. But my subject today is bloodhounds, and also the people who care about them.
At this American Kennel Club dog show for bloodhounds in Chattanooga, Tennessee, the bloodhounds compete mainly on good looks. Their owners say all that folded flesh also makes for a better working hound, because it helps trap scent on the trail.
Number 4 is...
Scientists are skeptical about this theory. Still, the show judge has an eye for what he calls plenty of wrinkle, but not too much.
This is like a 39 short man in a 46 long jacket. All that loose skin. and what's her name?
Amy.
Bloodhounds start out adorably, like other pups. And then they grow up to be 100 or so pounds of pure hangdog.
You have the dog with the slobber sort of festooned from its ear to its mouth.
That's part of my uniform.
Do you have
right
to carry
there.
a towel with other dogs, or is it mostly
No,
bloodhounds?
mostly bloodhounds. I told my husband when he asked me to marry him, I'd marry him if he'd buy me a bloodhound, and you know, it's just something you live with. You live with the slobber, and you just have to be sort of a sloppy person to live with this.
A good bloodhound has more dewlap than a Renaissance cardinal, and enough loose flesh at the back of the neck to form a clerical cowl.
Yes. Sit. Your hand down. And in the ears, when you bring them forward, you should go before.
Beyond the nose. God, they go a good distance beyond the nose. Let's hold them out. I mean, I've seen a wingspan like that on a brown pelican.
Most bloodhounds are good-natured, and the people who fall for those floppy ears and sad eyes tend to fall hard.
And does he live in the house?
In the bed.
In the bed. Oh my God. And what's that like?
Fine. He has his half, I got my half.
Oh.
And what half does your wife have?
Separate room. With her own dog. It works better that way.
This may all sound a bit too friendly for most people, who know bloodhounds not from dog shows like this, but from the movies. Aren't bloodhounds the ones that bore down on Tony Curtis and Sidney Poitier in The Defiant Ones?
Hold on, man.
Aren't they the devils that harried Liza, the fugitive slave, as she scrambled across the ice in Uncle Tom's cabin? This single scene typecast bloodhounds for decades as cutthroat monsters out of hell. Handlers say modern bloodhounds never lay a tooth on their quarry, but they're still trailing people today. At this training seminar of the National Police Bloodhound Association, about 100 handlers get together for a week each year to swap stories about tracking down a jewelry thief or a lost child. Following a trail is a special skill, not just a matter of having wrinkles in the right places. So they also practice for the next time in simulated search and rescue scenes. This is Millie. She's a 1-year-old.
What are you doing, little girl?
And this is her owner, Scott Brothers, with the Juniata County Sheriff's Department in central Pennsylvania.
You want to get out?
Millie's still learning the game.
Yeah, she's had 3 good runs so far. She hasn't actually come right up to the person, but I pulled her off of one that we found out she was right, but she was only 4.5 months old, and we were running a railroad bed, and the stones were just destroying the pads on her feet. And I told the sheriff, hey, I'm not gonna ruin this dog over a couple of these idiots here, so I told him I was gonna pull her, and I did, and they caught him the next morning about 2 miles ahead of us right on the railroad bed.
The ears hold the scent in, the wrinkles help trap it, the saliva helps rejuvenate it.
Weldon Wood, a retired police lieutenant in Maryland, helps train hounds like Millie.
Some people believe them, some don't.
Yeah.
Today, she'll be practicing on something most of us would prefer to imagine doesn't even exist. a normal human scent trail.
The body puts off dead skin cells. So many thousands or so many millions, I don't know how anybody can count it, but comes off of your body continuously, irregardless of what you're doing, awake or sleep, standing, walking, whatever. These scent rafts come off if you're visual or cornflake, and they come off the top of your head, the bottom of your feet, out your arms, and so forth, and they're drifting up here in the air and they settle down to the ground.
Find him, boy.
The bacteria working on these cells release volatile substances. The resulting scent is influenced by a person's diet, genetics, bathing habits, and other factors. We're about as oblivious to this scent as we are to our own fingerprints. But to a bloodhound, it seems to be as distinctive as a fingerprint, and our scent can linger long after we've moved on.
We've had an armed robbery of a bank, and we found the abandoned vehicle just down the road here. So we're going to scent the dog on the abandoned vehicle and hopefully find the suspect, or at least we're going to trail the suspect, okay? We think he bailed out in the woods over here.
The hound usually picks up that scent at the start from something the person was wearing. But the scent article can be almost anything. Even a rock a burglar picked up and used to smash a window.
If we don't have an article of clothing, we can use a footprint. We can use a car seat where you may have sat. We can take a sterile gauze pad, wipe a steering wheel, use that sterile gauze pad for a scent material.
This is a Maryland state trooper and not, in fact, a bank robber.
Where you go?
The prison jacket's for dramatic effect. Even a rookie like Millie doesn't really need the helpful hint. Scientists haven't tested bloodhounds enough to say for sure if they're better than other breeds at picking up human scent. But they readily acknowledge that bloodhounds tend to have superior motivation. After 15 miles on a trail, when other breeds just want to roll over and play dead, bloodhounds keep going, nose to the ground.
Dig him out, baby. Good girl.
The trainers say that for the hounds, this is all a hide-and-seek game. The hide-and-seek starts simple.
When I go to bed, I might take a couple pieces of liver as rewards, and I'll hide them around my bedroom and tell the dog to find them. And I just go to bed, and after a bit, you hear her nose going, and she'll jump up on the dresser and find a piece of liver, and I'll tell her keep looking, you know, and just talking to her like it's a person. And eventually she'll find all the pieces I hide. It's just something that I've always done. It's play to them. And
You get much sleep?
oh my, yeah, it only takes a few minutes.
A puppy may start out on a trail that's just 30 feet long, but she quickly builds up to a mile and then 5 miles. One object of training is to complicate the game gradually to duplicate conditions in a real search. That can mean leading the hounds through swamps. The water doesn't seem to interfere much with the hound's ability to stay on the scent trail.
How long does it take him to get to the point where you trust him as a working dog?
When he can do scent discrimination and do it continuously. And when we can start him from what we call a contaminated area, where there are a lot of scents there, and we can put in a scent that we know, and he can follow that scent that we know to the person from this contaminated area. We can run him down a city street where there's traffic, where there's scents coming from the bakery, the butcher shop, the pizza parlor. We want him to discriminate.
Scott is about to steal a cash deposit bag and put down a trail for another handler's dog.
Fine.
The hound doesn't go exactly where the runner went because the scent trail drifts with the breeze. Scent particles tend to catch in the grass and on shrubs. They get stirred up by traffic. They go through the lawnmower Cuisinart. For the handler being dragged down a trail he cannot detect, it's easy to lose faith. You wonder if the bloodhound isn't quietly thinking, I can't smell a damn thing. But trusting the dog is important because they're so much better at scent than we are. The human nose contains only about a square inch of olfactory membrane, compared to about 22 square inches in a large dog. And they are as much as 100,000 times more sensitive than humans to some odors. In real life, bloodhounds like this one have routinely rescued lost hunters and missing children, often where human searchers have failed. Bloodhounds tracked down James Earl Ray, the killer of Martin Luther King Jr., when Ray escaped from prison in 1977.
Good girl. Good girl, Sandy. Yeah. You want the money? You want the money?
Recently, police called on bloodhounds again in the Grand Canyon. It was one of the largest manhunts in Arizona history, involving hundreds of searchers and lasting 55 days. Danny Ray Horning, a convicted kidnapper, had walked away from the Arizona State Prison.
Horning is regarded as an experienced mountaineer. He picked up some survival skills in the U.S. Army, and he has skillfully eluded law enforcement by walking in circular patterns and figure eights, covering his tracks.
Horning eluded the bloodhounds too for a time. But one bloodhound finally picked up his trail and led police to the spot where Horning had holed up for the night. And yet such celebrated cases haven't changed the bloodhound's laughable reputation.
What do they say? What kind of thing? Who wants a floppy-eared, stinky, slimy, slobbering thing like that, you know? I mean, they're just not impressive to look at, like the shepherds are growling at you, you know, and they're biting at something all the time. And people like that.
England's traditional fox hunt is now minus the fox, but that doesn't spoil the thrill of the chase. Run with the hounds next. And some people think coyotes are too at home on the range. These clever predators are at the center of controversy when the Canine Connection returns after this. This special edition of National Geographic Explorer, the Canine Connection, continues.
Leave it to the English to make a sport out of the bloodhound's unusual abilities. These are members of the Windsor Forest Hunt. And this is their hunting pack, off-duty.
It's great the way they just collapse into a heap of dewlaps and fleas and loose flesh.
Queen Elizabeth herself has sometimes come out with these bloodhounds to enjoy the countryside and hunt down upstanding English citizens.
We hunt his scent, and his scent only. We don't add anything to it, put anything on his feet, or anything. It's just his smell and sweat, to be crude about it, and the hounds will get onto that, and as I said before, they will hunt that to the end of that particular line.
And this is the quarry. He serves in roughly the capacity of the fox in a fox hunt. Something interesting to chase. He's been wearing this shirt overnight to get it good and ripe. This is all undoubtedly a great relief to the local foxes. You can almost hear them shouting encouragement. Fine day for hunting. Got a glimpse of your quarry just now. Big, strong fellow in blue jogging pants. Went that way. Tally-ho. Why hunt humans? One good reason is that this part of England is highly urbanized, and it's imprudent for a field of riders to chase a fox into the middle of a major highway. A human runner can lead the hounds on a safe route. The hounds don't need to go up and snuff around the shirt because they can pick up the pool of scent where the runner waited. It's a fresh trail, and instantly they're off. The story is that bloodhounds originated as a hunting pack animal in Belgium 1,200 years ago and got their name because they were among the earliest blooded hounds, bred from known bloodlines. But it's easy to imagine that the connection to blood was a bit more direct. Bloodhounds weren't always bred to be as gentle as they are today. In truth, they were sometimes celebrated for picking the quarry out of a crowd and summarily tearing him to pieces. All that loose flesh can slow a bloodhound down, so instead of using purebreds, the Windsor Forest Hunt breeds a touch of the sleeker foxhound into its bloodhounds to tighten up the skin. After a course of 5 miles, the pack arrives at the finish, and the hunt ends not in blood, but in slobber. It may be that we laugh at bloodhounds or sometimes demonize them because this whole business of scent is so troubling for us. With their noses, the hounds know more about us than we know about ourselves. They remind us of our dimly perceived connections to the natural world. Scrub as we might, we will always be a breeding ground for microscopic bacteria and an olfactory feast for floppy-eared dogs. The hounds go home to the kennel to dream about a world rich with scent, a world less gifted mortals like us can only begin to understand.